Hello and welcome to today's video. Today I'm talking about fountain pen filling systems and where I rank them against each other. Now, we are not talking about lever fillers and crescent fillers and all the sort of lovely unusual ones. We're basically talking about the 4 or 5 main filling systems. Now, your list and your order will be different to mine, and that's perfectly okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the filling systems themselves, and then a little bit about my pros and cons of that and why I've ranked it where I've ranked it. So I suppose this video is designed more for new fountain pen users who are just trying to get a lay of the land, if you will, see what is around, see what the pros and cons to different things are. Most fountain pen users will start with cartridges or a cartridge converter and then generally move up to something like a piston filling pen. This video is just to give you a basic underlie of what is around and what they are and why I personally like them. Now, I've used a lot of pens over the years, hundreds of fountain pens with all the fountain pen filling systems you can think of. So this is what I've come down to, and what I found from my own personal practice is my preference. So let's start with number 5, and today that is the vac or power filling system. Now, I have a number of pens with this filling system that I absolutely love. Things like the Homo sapiens from Visconti or the 823 here from Pilot. So this filling system is used by undoing the piston knob on the back of the pen, pulling out that rod, and there's a little piston that runs down in the middle there, and that creates a vacuum behind it, and once it gets to a point just around here, it pops and it draws ink up into the back of the pen. It is a very simple, nice system. The pros of this system for me: the capacity of it. You get a good ink capacity, that's great. A lot of these pens, particularly things like my Visconti, are quite wet and they require a decent ink capacity. The other thing is it's a fun filling system. It's kind of cool to see science in action, and I love that. But the biggest con for me, and the reason why this is number 5 on my list, is that it is hard to clean. Without taking the pens apart, without dismantling them entirely, it is really hard to get a proper deep clean on these vac filling pens. Now, there are some that are designed to be taken apart, and that it is easier, and that is great, but a lot of these are not simple to take apart, and you will always get ink residue or water. Like, there is water here in my 823, and this hasn't been used for a few weeks. It was cleaned and dried like over a couple of days, and there's still water in there, and that water will have residue of whatever ink was in there. So that is just something you have to understand. But this is my number 5 wholly and solely because of the cleaning of these is just a bit of a pain. Number 4 on my list is what I consider to be half of a filling system I'm going to talk about a little bit later. And that is the cartridge. Now, you have standard international cartridges, and you have a large range of proprietary cartridges for different brands. Think of Lamy and Pilot and Aurora, all these brands that have their own cartridge that they use and their own cartridge size. That's all well and good. The reason why the cartridge is such a great filling system is the convenience of it. When I travel with standard international cartridges from brands like Diamine and Graf von Faber-Castell. I enjoy them a lot. They have nice inks that I enjoy, I should say, and they are convenient. If I get on a plane, I can take that cartridge out, and what I do is I put it in a little lock seal bag, and it goes into my luggage, and when I get a chance, I clean them all out, and I use them instead of using converters in a number of my pens, particularly in pens like this, the Kaweco Sport. And this is the Sage that was a limited edition there for a while, or a collaborative edition with the retailer Milligram. I use these pens with cartridges. At the moment, I have a cartridge in here that I have refilled. So this was, I think, either a Kaweco or something, a generic black ink cartridge at one point. It now has Diamine Dark Forest in it, which is an ink I really enjoy, and an ink that I think matches the color of this pen, or complements the color of this pen well. So yes, there is a great convenience using cartridges. But the big con, and the reason why this is number 4 on my list, is the environmental impact and sustainability of having so much plastic. So a lot of people, when they use cartridges, when the cartridge is done, they throw the cartridge out. That's just more plastic waste, and we have to reduce our plastic waste. The reason a lot of people love fountain pens is the fact that they are refillable, and yet we are refilling them with pieces of plastic. So just something to keep in mind. If you can reuse the cartridges, please do. If you know of a way of recycling it, there are a number of brands who will recycle those ink cartridges. Please look into all of that. But yes, in terms of convenience, it's great. They have a large range of pens that use them, great. Just we need to be more aware of the environmental impact of cartridges from the fountain pen and stationery world in general. The third filling system for me, my middle one, is the eyedropper. Now, a lot of people eyedropper things like the Kaweco Sport here. The pen I have here is the Opus 88 Demonstrator. This is an eyedropper pen. The way an eyedropper pen works is that you unscrew the section from the pen and you fill the entire barrel with ink. Now, this one has a little cut-off, shut-off valve built in, but the general idea is using something like an eyedropper, like a pipette here, or a blunt syringe or something. You put this into the bottle of ink, squeeze the ink up, place that into the barrel of the pen and fill it with ink to just below the threads. And then once the section is reattached, ink can then flow down into the pen and you get a really elegant, clean, simple filling system. There are a bunch of pens that do this. Everything from the Platinum Preppy with a little bit of silicone grease and an O-ring through to high-end Japanese like Urushi pens and things like that are eyedropper pens. It is a super common filling system. And there are a number of pros with that. So for instance, the capacity is huge. On some pens that can be up to 4 to 6 milliliters of ink. That's so much ink, and that will last you for ages. And for me, that's a bit of a con because I like to change my inks. Very rarely will I write with this much of one ink before wanting to change it. I've got so many beautiful inks I love, and there's only a couple of inks that I generally always have inked. Things like Diamine Oxford Blue, which I have sort of set pens for anyway. So yeah, huge capacity, both pro and con. It's great. Also, they're relatively simple to clean, like flushing out the barrel of the pen and then like running water through the section. Great, simple to clean, easy to use. I really, it's great, I enjoy that. But there are some cons as well. As I said, large ink capacity means changing inks as regularly. If that's something you're into, not going to be as doable. But also, for me, I'm always worried about a leak. And I know that's probably not a justified concern. You know, with the right silicone grease, the right shut-off valves, the right O-rings, all of that kind of thing, you can really guarantee that a pen probably won't leak. But, you know, like if you walk into a handrail and you crack the barrel of the pen in your pocket and it leaks everywhere, or if that, you know, thread comes undone and it leaks everywhere, I just can't risk that. So very, very rarely, if I have an eyedropper ink pen, does that pen leave the house. It's generally just used at my desk, and that's absolutely fine. And as I said, I've got some great pens that I love being eyedroppered, including this Opus 88 pen, which is a beautiful, beautiful pen. So, eyedropper, my third favorite filling system. My second favorite filling system is the Piston filling system. So this is the TWSBI Diamond 580, one of my favorite pens. And if you've watched any other videos on my channel, you will know that how much I love this pen. The way the piston works is not dissimilar from the back filler, but what you do is you dip it into the bottle of ink, but past the nib section there, you twist this knob on the end and you can see that piston going down, and as that piston then is pulled back up, it draws ink up into the barrel of the pen and you fill most, if not all, of this barrel with ink. And then you have the in effect, like a inbuilt cartridge converter there. And so the whole pen is the reservoir, and that's great. One of the reasons I love this, the biggest reason I love this filling system is the capacity and the ease of use. You get a good ink capacity, much more than any other cartridge or a simple converter. And when it's a demonstrator pen like this, you get a great sense of how much ink there is. The only issue I have with this filling system sometimes is cleaning it. If you're using inks that are highly concentrated or harder to clean, I find them to be just a little bit more finicky. They are nowhere near as finicky as things like the vac fillers or the power fillers. Nowhere near. And I should say, with Piston, I include things like the bulk fillers with that. Those ones that have like the detachable piston that operates in the pen. They work in the same way. Once again, they're not the easiest to clean, but great in capacity and so simple to use. Okay, if it wasn't obvious by this point what my favorite filling system is, it is the simple converter or cartridge converter. So a lot of pens that take cartridges, like the Kaweco here, will have a converter that you can put in that pen, and basically it takes the place of the cartridge and allows you to use bottled ink, and they are reused over and over again until they either wear out. If you maintain them, they last longer, or until the pen is out of your use. Today here I have the Diplomat Excellence A2 as my cartridge converter example. And so once that is unscrewed, you have the cartridge converter here on the end, and there are multiple ways that you can use it to fill it. My personal preference is by dipping the nib into the bottle of ink just past the section there, and then activating the piston by turning that knob on the end, and you might be able to see it rising and falling in there, and it pulls the ink up into the pen. You can also detach that and dip just the converter in the bottle of ink and do the same thing, and then pop that into the back of the pen so you don't get ink on the section. There are some pens I do that with simply because the section doesn't love getting ink on it, or it's harder to clean. But generally speaking, it is a nice, convenient filling system. The reasons I love the cartridge converter, and I say love because I like to change my inks relatively regularly, and so it's a simple system to clean. They clean out very easily. You can take them, a lot of them apart, really give them a deep clean, put them in the ultrasonic cleaner, whatever your cleaning method is, but they are convenient. You can even get stoppers to put in a converter and travel with it filled with ink to replace if you don't want to be traveling with ink in your pen. So there's lots of ways that they are a super convenient, easy system to use. Also, they are, relatively speaking, affordable. So for instance, this pen, if this converter decides to pack it in and breaks, or whatever goes wrong with it, I can replace that converter with a new one from either, this is a Schmidt K5 converter, so I could replace it with one of those, or any of the other standard international converters that fit this pen. And I'm able to continue to reuse the pen for a handful of dollars, maybe 10 to 15 Australian dollars. Whereas if your piston filler or your vac filler, if the filling system falls apart, it's a little harder to replace that or get that fixed. You've generally got to send it away. So it's convenient and it's easy with the cartridge converter system. Now, there are some cons, and one big con I'm going to start with is that brands like Sailor and Platinum and Pilot have terrible converters. Sailor, their converter, I've gone through so many of my Sailor pens that it's just a pain. I end up using refilled cartridges for that pen now. Platinum are a little bit better, but still not great, and just too expensive, to be perfectly honest, for what they are and the quality you get. The Pilot converters, there are a range of converters that Pilot make, and people, generally speaking, love the Con 70. It's not my favorite. I find it hard to clean. I prefer a piston converter as opposed to like a vac style push button system that the Con 70 is. So things like the Con 40 things are a much better system for me, but they have zero ink capacity. You'll write through a Con 40 converter in about a few pages of writing, really. Maybe more than that, but generally speaking, not great ink capacity. So yeah, the converters from those brands are, generally speaking, fairly terrible, and I generally refill cartridges from those brands because they have a better capacity and generally are easy to clean and easier to use anyway. But the only other issue that I have with the cartridge converter system is that it does have a smaller ink capacity. It's probably got the smallest ink capacity of all of these filling systems, but as I said, for me, where I like to change inks regularly, I don't find that to be so much of a problem. So that was my quick rundown and my preference order of the 4 to 5 standard filling systems for fountain pens that are generally speaking on the market today. So we had the vac or power filler at number 5. We had the cartridge in at number 4, eyedropper at 3, piston filling pen at number 2, and the humble but ever so faithful cartridge converter pen at number 1. So thank you for watching today. I hope you found this video interesting and useful. Please like and subscribe, hit the notifications button, all of that kind of stuff. If you've got products you think I should be looking at, or if there's a way you would like to support my channel, I would love to hear from you. Also, if you have ideas for videos you'd like to see me make, drop me a message and I'll see what I can do. In the meantime, enjoy your pens, whatever their filling system, whatever is your favorite filling system, and I'll talk to you soon.